Okay. Thank you, everyone. So since I stand between you and your coffee break, just assume that you have drank your coffee now and stay awake until then. Okay? Yeah. All right. So today I will talk about DevTools and automation. So a little bit about me. If you hear from me, you know that my slang sounds slightly different from you. I'm from Malaysia. Anyone from Southeast Asia here? No. Okay. Good. So I'm a dev lead in the Chrome DevTools team. And if you somehow, when you open DevTools, you see this What's New in DevTools tab pop up. If you don't close it immediately, you click on any of this link, most probably you will see my face or my video or my blog post article that walk you through some of the new features within DevTools itself. So try not every time just close it and try to just click on them and read some of the, or watch some of the things that might help you, your productivity. Okay, so talk about DevTools and automation. This is what our team maintains. So we maintain Chrome DevTools as well as browser automation tools like Puppeteer, Chrome Driver, and WebDriver by Dive, which I will dive into in a bit. And Chrome DevTools and browser automation is essentially debugging and testing. And it's important because this is sometimes we copy paste some code somewhere, it will work. But when we just try to debug it or ask ChatGPT, like my colleague said, like, you ask ChatGPT one line, paste the code, but it just doesn't work, and then you spend like few hours to just fix one little typo there. So it's important that you have tools for debug and testing. Okay, this is what we'll cover today. We'll cover some debugging stuff from CSS and UI, JavaScript, networks, and for testing, we'll just cover WebDriver by Dive. Okay, let's get started. So this is us. Let's start with CSS. Yeah. So I tried to, copyright, so I couldn't use that. I tried to put my face there. Okay. Okay, so for CSS and UI, these are the new CSS and UI features that are coming, or some is already land. Like, any one of you know everything, or just know like one or two things on this list that you're familiar and start using? Wow, that's fantastic. This is great. Like, all these much more new features are really great. But it's even more important that you have DevTools, you have a tools to let you inspect and debug them. Let me just dive into one of the examples. So for example, color level 4 and level 5 is coming. Previously, when we are using RGB to define color, or just use the hex code to do that. But with the new syntax, now we support colors like lab and LCH. These colors support much more color space. And we support some new syntax as well. For example, we support the color syntax, display P3, and XYZ D45. This is a real number, by the way. And we support something like linear gradient in OKLab color space, and in LCH syntax like this. And when all these syntax land in the browsers, we need to make sure that DevTools doesn't break. And we need to be able to display the color for you as well. So for example, this is something that's coming soon in Chrome 1.11. What you can see is that we need to be able to highlight the syntax for you. So from here, you can see that, oh, I cannot stand there because my shadow will be there, and it's not good for the recording. Okay, let's go here. So you can see that now in Chrome 1.1, DevTools supports this LCH OKLab color. And for color mix syntax, you see that we have a very nice shady crossover in between two colors to show you the actual color there. And when you click on the color, what if the color space is not RGB? So most of our computers support RGB, but if you want to see a wider color space, how do we show that? So we will show you that, we'll show a line. Now when you open the eyedropper tools, we'll show you a line. So within this area, these are the color that is within sRGB. But any color space that is outside sRGB, it will show outside of this line. So we show you a line to indicate that. And some of your computer might not support like a higher color space. So what happens is that when we will clip this color to the closest color that match your selection. For example, in this case, we will show RGB, and we show a warning sign there to show you that this color actually is the color that you select is outside of the color space, but what we do is we will try to map the color to the closest sRGB color for you. So this is what is going to land in Chrome 111, and you can start using it in the web. And the one who implemented these features, my colleague, Ergun, is sitting here. So if you have more questions on how colors looks like, how we map and develop the color space, you can ask him for more questions later. He is there. Okay. And next, let's talk about CSS nesting. So this is what we currently do with native CSS. So you use .card, .cut, .title, and it gets longer. What previously we can do with SCSS is that we can do CSS nesting like that, but without the ampersand. With the new CSS, native CSS, it supports nesting, but you have to add an ampersand in front of that. Then it works natively. You don't need any preprocessor to do CSS nesting. And in order to support this, DevTools need to do something as well. And you might be wondering, why do we add an ampersand before that? Why can't we just support like SCSS syntax or SCSS syntax that you don't need to add any sign? It is because that's how the browser parsing engine works. The browser's parsing engine need to know there's something that indicate the start of the line so that it can start processing that, oh, this line is the nesting syntax. So what DevTools do is we need to be able to not break it. So when you open DevTools with CSS nesting, I guess this is definitely not something that you wish to see. So we need to be able to display that from DevTools. And we need to be able to do some parsing as well within DevTools to show you potentially what are the errors in the syntax and how you can fix it to help you to fix your invalid syntax. Okay, next, these features, a few of you, at least 2 of you told me that this is very helpful for you to in your development. This is it's already land last year. It's hints for inactive CSS. So for example, if you are not using display grid or display flags, when you define gaps, we'll gray out that and show you an info icon, and you hover into it, we'll show you that, oh, this probably doesn't work in display block. Try using something else. So some of you say that this is really helpful for you during the development. And landing soon in Chrome 112, we have a Learn More and NDM documentations. So when you hover over to the properties name, we'll show you roughly a short descriptions on the features. And when you click on Learn More, it will open the MDM documentation. So it's an easier way for you to find like example to start learning, dig into the syntax. And if you want to learn more about CSS stuff, because it's too many of them, you can go to this link and learn more about that. I will share the slide deck later, so you don't need to download now. Next, let's talk about JavaScript. So recently I did a survey with around 6,000 reply. And I asked like, oh, do you use breakpoint or do you use console.log and debugger sometimes? And 70% of the developers mentioned that they use console.log and do not use breakpoint. Okay, now this is something that, breakpoint is great, but we need to also figure out like why it doesn't work and what stands in between you and your JavaScript debugging journey. So these are the few areas that the team focused on in 2020, in this year. So the first one will work to improve the reliability of source map. And if you want to learn about how source map works, Benedict have a talk later. So make sure that you join his talk later to learn more about the source map. Next, this year we also focus on delightful JavaScript debugging experience. What DevTools can do to make frictionless DX, like developer experience, so that you don't feel like it's hard to debug your JavaScript, hard to identify problems when you are fixing a bug. The third one is something that we already work on, is to make sure that the code that you see in the DevTools sources panel is relevant to you. For example, we learned some, this morning Simona mentioned in her Angular talk, So we landed some, in collaboration with Angular, we landed some improvement within Angular framework itself, and it can be used in other frameworks as well. And also improve the stack trace. So if you want to learn more, there's a link down here that you can click on to learn more. Okay. So one of the things, this is it. So imagine that now there is some issues happens when you click on a button, some of the calculation doesn't work. So this is what happened previously. You can see like there's a lot of zone.js or irrelevant code that stand in between, because this is not something that you want to debug. What you really want to debug is the button is your component itself. So this, with the improvement that we have done, what we do is that we hide some of the irrelevant stack. Like you see that in this example, all the zone.js frame is gone. We'll hide it, but you have an option to click on Show More to view them. And what we show you is that it's your component code and your button component, so that you can straight away from the stack trace try to identify the root cause of your issues easier. And how we did it is by using source map. So this is an example of the source map. So you have a source here. And let's say the library.js is something that is irrelevant. So what we do and what the framework needs to do is to populate this X Google ignore list in the source map. And then when the code loads in DevTools, we'll know that, oh, library.js is something that we should ignore. That's why we can hide the stack trace in the console itself and your core stack. And yeah, so but what if the frameworks that you are currently using, for example, React, doesn't support that yet? So what you can do, we have something for you. If you like, for example, node module is very common that everyone have a big node modules, right? If you don't want this file to show under your stack trace, what you can do is you can go to the sources panel, right-click on the directory, and add this whole directory to ignore list. Previously, you already can do like you can right-click on a file and then add it to the ignore list. But now we have added that you can just right-click on the whole folder itself and add it to that, so that you can have the effect just now, which we will hide the irrelevant stack trace when you do the debugging. Tried it, it will land soon in Chrome 1.12. By the way, the browser versions, if you click update, just now, your current browser version is 1.10. So it's 2 versions later, so you have this. Or if you use Chrome Canary. Okay, next, this is landing in Chrome 1.11, is that you are able to we will do automatically in-place pretty print for your source code. So for example, I guess everyone has this experience that when you want to debug, for example, production code, you have this one-liner, this long, very long syntax. And then what you need to do is you need to click on this little button at the bottom to prettify that. And then when you click the prettify, previously, we don't show the code in the same page, but in DevTools, we open the code in another tab called Formatted tab. So this is one of the things that we receive from developers, that you don't want to debug like that. You just want to like pretty print and it show up in the same tab itself. So what we did is, we did even better. So now, wherever we detect that you open a minified file, we will automatically pretty print it. And what you can do, if you really want to see it in a single line, you can click on that and disable that. Okay. Okay. Next is breakpoint UX redesign. So if you are the 30% of people that set the breakpoint in DevTools, what you can do now is we enhance the breakpoint pane. So what we did now is when you set a breakpoint in DevTools, instead of showing you something like this before, now we show you a breakpoint grouped by the files itself and the breakpoints. And we move the line number to here. And the next thing that you can do is you can hover over the file and select some of the action that you want to do. Like, for example, previously you need to right-click on the file to remove the breakpoint. You can't even, there's no cancel button for you to remove that. You need to right-click to do that. But now, you don't need to. What you need to do is you just need to click the cross, hover over it, click the cross, and and that's gone. Like the whole, every breakpoint in the file will just be removed. Or if you want to disable it, you can click on the checkbox here and disable that for the whole file. So this is making it more convenient for you to debugging. And OK, this is a question from me. Any one of you knows that actually there's these 3 types of breakpoint in DevTools? The first one is called breakpoint, which is blue color. You just click and you set it. Another 2, conditional breakpoint and lock point, is when you right-click on the empty line, and you have the options to add a conditional breakpoint and add a lock point. What it does is that conditional breakpoint, you can set a condition, and it will only break if the condition met. So for example, if you have a for loop, and you want to debug only when certain condition met, you can use the conditional breakpoint for that. So it don't break every time, and then you just click continue. For the lock point, it's like your console.log. You can log multiple value. For example, here I log like result, the second array, and the result.length. How many of you know that DevTools support these 3 types of breakpoint before that? OK. Not that many, because most of you using console.log, right? OK, cool. OK, so now, after the redesign, we also give you a shortcut to click on the edit button, so that when you click on the edit button, we will show, instead of the top file, you can click on the edit button. And what we do is that we show you a dialog lets you set the conditional breakpoint and the lock point from here, so that it removes some of the frictions for those 30% developer. OK. OK, then this is a mock. This is something that I want to get your ideas on. So I have a survey form later with 5 questions. Please help me to fill out. So what if we have something like this, a quick log? When you hover over the line, because you do not know that the line is right-clickable, we show you a caret, we show you an icon there. And if you click on the empty area, you still get your breakpoint. But if you click on the drop-down itself, we give you an easier way to set like breakpoint, conditional breakpoint, and lock point. Is this something that you might use or you might consider using because it's like easier? OK, good. OK, please answer yes or no. Like you clap now, maybe you answer no in that, yeah. But another mock, this is something that the idea that I have. Like, let's say this is your IDE, this is your Visual Studio Code. What if, when you right-click in the line Add to Cart, you have an option to say that go to DevTools, or with and then in DevTools, we just open the files in the DevTools itself, and you can just set a breakpoint from there. Like, would this be something that's helpful for you? Instead of writing console.log, you can jump to the code itself. I use console.log a lot as well, but there are times that you want to set breakpoints and see more complete pictures of all the stack trace and other things. So that's the time that you might want to use it. But if, let's say, there's something that gives you like easier way to jump to open the source file in DevTools, would it be something helpful to you? This is a question in the survey form. And also another thing, so personally, I install a Visual Studio Code extension, like shortcut, to set console.log. Ninja console.log, Turbo console, anyone use that? OK, I see some hands. It's very handy. So I'm not affiliate to that extension, but I must say that it's quite handy. So imagine that when your cursor set into here, and when you right-click to it, or when you use a keyboard shortcut, you can straight away add a lock point, or add a conditional breakpoint, or add a breakpoint straight away in the code in DevTools. And then when you start live reloading and start debugging, running, your code is there. One of the good things about this one, about adding a lock point straight away, is that just now someone told me that wherever, like Mario, I guess, told me that wherever he sent a PR, and then the PR have a lot of console.log, and then the senior developer just looked at him, please remove all the console.log before you submit the PR. So with this, you do not need to set a console.log, but you get the benefit of console.log because you are using the log point in DevTools itself. So let me know if this is helpful for you, and then we can see if we can make it happen. Okay, the last one about JavaScript improvement. This is about network response header overrides. This is something that we recently goes into RFC, request for comment, so give us feedback. If you say that it's no, then we don't ship it. Yeah. Okay, so what you did is that in your header, you choose one of the requests, and then you can override the response header. And then you also have a file that you can work with. This is useful. This is one of the use case. You imagine, sometimes when you develop an API, then the developer always give you these coarse errors because they forget to add that in the Express server or any server. So what you can do is you can straight away override that in DevTools itself, say that you access control, allow all, and then you refresh it, and then that works. So this is the use case for that. So if give it a go, so it's, you can already trying it out, and give us feedback in the RFC itself. Okay, too low. Okay, hi. Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is one of the comments. So to close this Chrome DevTools update sessions, so this is the comment that I get from one of the conference I went last week. Someone just told me that, I never report a bug, but DevTools sometimes have a bug. And sometimes it just disappear after 1 or 2 release. DevTools just fix it, so there's no point for me. I don't need to report a bug because they will find it anyway. That's not true, because we are no AI, there's no AI bug detection for us. So without this, could be someone report the bug on your behalf. But if you imagine that one day we receive 100 bugs, and every bug is different, and we need to know, like, if this bug is recurring a lot of time, or if this blocking in your way, sometimes we just do not know. So please file a bug next time when you will see like some of the features that you want to have, or some of the behavior that's not working intended. So please file a bug. You can go to crbug.com/new to file it, or within DevTools, you can click on the 3-dot button, help, and report a DevTools issues. I know there's a lot of steps, because we need to make sure that people really want to report a bug and make the effort to go there. Okay? All right. Now, talking about test automation. Let me just check how much time do I have. Okay, cool. So let's start with some test automation pain point. Anyone do test automation here? Write tests? Okay, good. There's quite a lot of you. Okay, then this might be you. Why the test runs so slow? You know, sometimes when I run the test within my machine, it turns into a F1 machine, not M1, it's F1, because the sound is just too strong, and then the test is running slow. Yeah. And another scenario is that the test that you wrote might only run in a certain browsers. It doesn't run in others browsers. So although you write like a perfect test code that runs, but it only runs, for example, in Chrome, but not in others browsers. So why this is happening? Then we need to look into the ecosystem and what are the tools and how they automate it behind the scene. So we have something called WebDriver Classic Protocols. So tools like Selenium, Appium, Nightwatch, and WebDriver IO basically is using something called WebDriver Classic Protocol behind the scene. And Puppeteer and Playwright is using CDP behind the scene. Anyone use Puppeteer? Okay, cool, quite a lot of you. Anyone use Selenium? Okay, still some hand, good. WebDriver IO? Okay, no one. My demo later will be WebDriver IO, just to let you know. Okay, and another like Cypress and Test Cafe, they are not using any of the protocol at the surface level. They are using Web API and JavaScript to do the automations. But in some case, they do use CDP as well. Later, I will talk about them. Okay, so let me show a demo on how WebDriver and WebDriver Classic Protocol and CDP work behind the scene. So for example, WebDriver Classic, this is what happened. This is your automation tools. This is any of your frameworks like Selenium and WebDriver IO. And then you will issue a WebDriver command via HTTP request. And you send that not directly to the browsers, you send that to a browser drivers, and the browser driver is the middle person that will control the browser. So whatever command you send, secretly they have another channel to talk about that. Okay, so this is what it works. So for example, I have a coffee website. We want to automate these two scenarios. Navigate to a page and click on the espresso. Okay? So what do? We can do that with WebDriver IO and REST API. So the fastest way to get started to do for writing WebDriver IO or Cypress test script or others is that in Chrome DevTools, there's this recorder panel. It's quite new that we have it last year. What you can do is you can start a recording session, then perform the step on the page, and then you can export it as a JSON file, or you can replay it within DevTools itself without any setup. So what I do is that I have a WebDriver IO extension, then I just export the test script here. And then there's nothing special. These are the test script. This is the test script that I exported. So I have a describe order coffee. I have a browser set window size, go to the URL, and then click on the espresso icon. Okay, let's go to the demo itself. So that's exactly the code. But what I do here is I will add another 2 more lines because I want to debug these sessions. So what I will do is I will run a command. The last time I ran this demo, it failed because of network connection. So let's see this time. If nothing happened, interesting. I just run it before I come on stage. Okay, let me run it one more time. Okay, it works now. So for this case, I'm not using, because the WebDriver IO support a lot of other browsers like Safari and Firefox. In this case, I'm using Firefox for this. So what I will do is let me copy the session code and the port number. And behind the scene, what I do is now I will issue a HTTP request to control the server, because this is how WebDriver works. So what I will do is I will have this, let me expand this. So I'll have this use Arceus, I will issue this URL command to set the size. So let's say I change the size to 900. And then now I will run the request itself. Okay. The browser size changed. So this is what, under the hood, the Selenium and WebDriver IO, in this case, use this command to control the server itself. So now I will set it back to 600. And if I want to click on an element, how do I tell the browsers to click on an element? So this is the code to make it work. Okay. So there's 2 steps here. First, I will say that I will use the CSS selector to select this cappuccino item, and then I find the element ID. Once I get the element ID, I will issue another HTTP request, the post request, to click on that element. So let's see, currently our cart have 1 item. If I run the same request again, I should see 2 items in the cart. And let's see the cart, we have cappuccino and espresso. So basically, this is how the testing framework control the browser behind the scene using WebDriver IO. Okay. Okay, let me just stop it. Okay. So to recap, this is exactly this is how it works. Navigate to the page, find the coffee, and click the coffee. And usually, after browser driver talk to the browsers, it will just return the request, return the response to the testing tools. But there's something tricky here during the find the coffee step, because sometimes your APIs is really slow, and you have this scenario where you need to keep on checking, like, is the espresso is loaded, is the espresso is loaded. And because it's a HTTP request, we need to do like HTTP polling in order to pull the request, like keep asking. There's no way for the browser's driver to push the response to you once it's ready. So as the testing framework need to do that manually. So it might be slightly slower because this is the way that it's designed. So let's take a look on CDP. So this, let's say, for example, tools like Puppeteer, we do not have a browser driver in between. Your automation tools talk directly to Chromium-based browsers, only Chromium-based browsers. Okay, so how it works is that Puppeteer, for example, will issue a command through CDP and then control the browser via WebSocket, not HTTP. Okay, so I will run another demo here. So what I will do is I will go to the file and then just export it as a JSON file. Then I can use this. So this is how the JSON files looks like. Set viewport, navigate, and click it. And what I can do is I can use the Puppeteer replay CLI to run it. So after I install it, I can either replay one file or replay many files. Okay, so let's go to my demo here. But if in order for me to show you that the protocols, what I do is that I will add this debug Puppeteer protocol send. So I will show you all the send protocol in between the Puppeteer and the browsers itself. So let me run this. So you see that we successfully run the test. And these are all the protocol we send. It is something, it looks like a JSON format, but it's basically that's how the CDP works behind the scene. So if you want to visualize this, you can actually play this, issue a CDP command from the browser itself, from Chrome itself. So let's say now I'm in a blank browser. There's this three-dot menu that you can pull out. There's something called a protocol monitor that you can turn it on. And I will pause it first. So let me clear it. So whatever step that I did on the page, if I change it, you see that there's a CDP command that runs behind the scene. That's because the DevTools itself is using CDP to track your page, to see like how you interact with your page. Okay, that being said, what I will do is I will issue a command, a CDP command, to navigate. So the command is called page navigate, and I pass in a parameter, pass in this URL. That's how we navigate to the page. So what I will do is, also this is JavaScript snippet. If you do not know, in DevTools sources panel, you can create a snippet. And then I have this copy command that JSON stringify this. So I will just play this and copy the command into JSON string format. And I will paste this command into protocol monitor and run it. So you see that we navigate to the page already with this command. So if I want to click on cappuccino in this case, I will issue another CDP command called input dispatch mouse event. Press on the mouse. Let me copy this event. And in the protocol monitor, I paste the CDP command and I run it. But at this point, we just hover, like we just click on it, but we haven't released our mouse yet. That's why you see that there's no coffee added yet. So for CDP, what the browser needs to do is that it needs to release the, not this one. It needs to release the cappuccino, so it needs to like dispatch a mouse event, say that release the cappuccino, release the mouse. Then it works. So we have one more item added to the cart. So this is how frameworks like Puppeteer control the browser behind the scenes is through the protocol. You can try it out using protocol monitor. You need to enable that via the experiment tab. Okay, go back to my file here. Okay, so in a glance, this is how CDP works. You navigate to the page, find the coffee, and click the coffee itself. And every time the browsers will just wait until your API loads. When it finds that, and then it reply to the testing framework that, we found this coffee and this is the reply. There's no need to do HTTP polling because there's no need to. So CDP is faster for real-time communication because it's used WebSocket. However, like I mentioned just now, CDP only works for Chromium-based browsers, and it's very chatty. And you see that every time because it's designed for debugging purpose, and so that it tracks a lot of events that is not necessarily related to testing. Okay, so what the benefit of CDP is that it supports a lot of low-level control. For example, you can simulate device mode, like you want iPhone XS or any other size. You can simulate geolocation with CDP, but it's not that possible with WebDriver Classic. And you can intercept network requests. This is very important for testing because we need to mock the request for testing. And you'll be able to get the console log message. This is what is not possible with the classic WebDriver classic WebDriver. And behind the scene, like some of these, even Selenium, Nightwatch, and WebDriver IO, Cypress, and other frameworks, they also support CDP in some way. If you go and search like Cypress CDP or something, you can see that there's a way for you to open a CDP communication and to talk directly to the browsers for some of the features that they do not support. Okay, so to take a comparison, take a look at WebDriver, Classic, and CDP. These are some of the benefits. These are some of the benefits and disadvantages. And we only take the benefits of both of these protocols. That's why we come up with a new spec called WebDriver BiDi. It's a cross-browser automation protocol that is a work in progress. So browsers vendors like Chrome, Edge, Mozilla, Safari are joint force, and this is an open W3C standard, so you can follow the standards progress here. And when we create a new protocol, it means that it needs to go through these three processes. The first part is that we need to have a spec. Everyone needs to agree on how the spec looks like. And then the second step is verifications. We need to have a bunch of tests so that different browsers are testing the same scenario in the same way, running the same test, but run in different browser itself. And then the last one is implementation to make sure that we pass all the tests and the implementation is correct. So this is the current status of WebDriver BiDi. So you can see that Chrome is not bad. Some score is missing, Chrome and Edge. Firefox has the best score here. Safari, not bad. You have at least one. Yeah. Okay, but this is as of January 23. So go and check the link and tell me like what's the latest status. But the visions of these WebDriver BiDi protocols is that no matter what automations tool that you're using, Selenium, Cypress, or Puppeteer, any browser automations tool, and no matter any browsers or drivers that you are using, it doesn't matter. Everyone talk using the standard, open standard WebDriver BiDi protocol to do like cross, to help you to do test automations. Instead of some company, for example, CDP is mostly from the Chromium team, and the Chrome team actually maintain that. So instead of that, we put that into the standard to make sure that everything works, not like Sarah mentioned just now, not under capitalism. Yeah. So I think that's a good thing. Okay, so cool. But why should I care? And what should you do? Because like since the things that I mentioned just now, WebDriver BiDi protocols, is something that the browsers and your testing framework should do. There's nothing that you can do until they do something, right? That's right. But if you care about testing experience and you care about open source and governance, and if you want your favorite testing tools adopt and help you better at your work, you can try to create issues in their repo, mention that, hey, when are you going to support WebDriver BiDi? And be an early adopter when they implement the WebDriver BiDi protocols. And also try to share your excitements about the product on social media itself. Okay, so that's all for today. We have covered CSS and UI, JavaScript, network for debugging topics. And for testing, we only be able to cover WebDriver BiDi because I don't want to stop you from your coffee break. But there's two nice things that you can search for more as well. So Chrome, we just recently released a new headless mode that is a real headless. So you can go and check it out. And the DevTool recorder, I did a little bit of mention just now. Yeah, so come talk to us if you have any DevTool wish list or anything. We have sticker as well, the Chrome dinosaur sticker if you want. Come talk to us. Share with us like some of the bugs that you have, or some of the things that you have a feature request that might be already in DevTools, but you just do not know about that. So come talk to us. Yeah, and you can find, this is the survey form, and the slide link is within the survey form itself. So you can scan this, and thank you.